Just 1 second. Kitty, can you please just give me reassurance that there will be no more additional costs after this one, please? There will be no more additional costs after this one.
Well, another day, another massive fuck up from Mythic Games. From Board Game Wire, Mythic Games fails to deliver on 2 Kickstarter projects worth $3.2 million sells IPs to come on. Those 2 projects, of course, being Hell the Last Saga and Anastyr. Which is, I am so glad I did not back Anastyr. Hell the Last Saga was before my time, but wait, was it before my time? Hell the Last Saga, This should have been out, wasn't this before? Yeah, Hell was even before Darkest Dungeon. How is it? Was it? Or am I looking at this wrong? It had to have been before. Let's see, this was supposed delivery June 2021, Darkest Dungeon, November 2021. So yeah, it was before. What the hell were they doing with Hell? I know the fucking 5 million Darkest Dungeon probably had to take a whole lot of time, but still, Jesus Christ. Anyway, let's get back in on this. Backers of Hell the Last Saga, which raised over $2 million, and Anastyr, which raised over $1 million, have been living in uncertainty for months about whether they will receive their games after Mythic hit serious financial trouble fulfilling its other large crowdfunding projects, including Six Siege and Darkest Dungeon. They should have seen this coming for a while now. They should not have been living on uncertainty. They should have known that it wasn't going to happen, or they would have to be paid double for shipping. The deal means backers of 2 games, some of whom had committed several hundreds of dollars to fund their development, stand no chance of receiving the games they supported. Thanks, Mythic. Wonderful. Let's see. And we said that was $3 million. Darkest Dungeon was another $5 million. That's like $10 million, and you can't get us our damn games. Yeah, I know, COVID. Shut up. Come On, which has a string of heavyweight Kickstarters, including Zombicide, Massive Darkness, and Cthulhu Death May Die under its belt, said neither Hell nor Anastyr are currently ready for publication in their current state and will require substantial effort to complete them. Keep this in mind for later. Hell, which was in production first, which should have been. The company said it will now go through an extensive development and playtesting process for both games, with their own versions being offered free to original backers from Mythic Games if they wish to receive it, although backers will have to pay shipping and VAT, of course. So, I mean, good on you, come on. And of course, you'd have to be completely stupid not to take up the deal. But still, basically this says, whatever game you thought you were going to get, whatever game you thought you were going to get for Hell, whatever game you thought you were going to get for Anastyr, it's going to be different. Maybe, hopefully, it'll be similar enough that the people who backed it actually still like it and enjoy it, but it's going to be changed, and at least Come On, it has some good games. I like Cthulhu Death May Die. I've heard great things about Massive Darkness and Zombicide. And of course, yeah, you're going to have to pay extra for shipping and VATs. Everyone knew that was coming. Even before Mythic sold it, we knew that was coming. That is likely the only real course of action for most supporters if they wish to receive anything at all. Mythic says it is honoring refund requests for its games on a first-come, first-served basis, but backers are complaining of a glacially slow process with refunds requested from as long ago as July 2022 still pending, and plenty believe Mythic will never have the funds to honor every request. They won't. They will not. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Sorry to be the naysayer, but they are not. If you were waiting for a refund, give up. Just, you're not gonna get it. Just don't get your hopes up about getting that money back, because it's not. It is not coming at all. Mythic said in a Kickstarter update to Hell and Anastyr backers, we've been focusing on the delivery of the Six Siege and Darkest Dungeon projects, which has necessitated a difficult request to our backers to contribute to the extra costs. Our team, reduced since our reorganization, has been monopolized on the task, but we have continued to seek solutions for the delivery of Hell. Today, we have to admit that this game, as it was conceived from the beginning, is excessively difficult, if not impossible to complete with our current means, despite the enormous resources already committed, whether in terms of time, team, or budget. And yet, according to Come On, both Hell and Anastasia are not ready for publication in their current states and will require substantial effort to complete them. Like, you contradicted yourself. How much could you have put into this game? This is the problem with modern board games right here. This is the problem. It is excessively difficult and not impossible. Every game now is completely bloated all to hell. Not every board game needs to be Kingdom Death Monster. Not every board game needs to be Medora. You can have basic little fun little board games like fucking Everdell or Wingspan. Just knock it out, print a good basic game, and be done with it. You don't have to make this 1,000-hour campaign for all of your damn games. That'll be like, oh, it's the new greatest board game ever. Just make a decent board game that people want to play. Unless, of course, we were to ask for backers for a financial contribution. A contribution for this game would far exceed what we've been asking for other projects, knowing that backers would also have to wait a long time to receive it. That did not seem like an acceptable solution to us. I mean, Sixth Siege and Darkest Dungeon have been on the back burner for like over a year now. Well, and like, look at this. Look. Would 4 exceed what we've been asking for other projects? Sixth Siege doubled the cost. Darkest Dungeon damn near doubled the cost. How much would you need to finish Anastasia and Hell? A basic pledge was $130. A basic pledge was $130. And what, you were going to need $200 to fix it? To actually finish it? What have you... Where are your receipts? What have you been doing with all this money? We know COVID. We know shipping costs has gone up. But show us the damn receipts. Company co-founder, Leo, told Boardware Game, last October that the company had slashed its staff numbers by 60%, with the vast majority of the less than a dozen employees remaining being largely outsourced. Cut yourself, Leo. Just get out of there. No one really believes you anymore. It would be much better for Mythic Games and everyone involved if you just left. Mythic had already heavily cut its portfolio of games to the sales of IPs to other publishers in order to focus on Darkest Dungeon, Hell and Anastasia. Well, they didn't focus on Hell and Anastasia. While Leo said 3 months ago that he and fellow co-founder Benoit had not paid themselves a salary from Mythic since the beginning of 2023. Okay. Where are you getting your money to live then? You haven't had a salary in over a year. How much money backlog do you have that you can just not get a paycheck for a year and be relatively okay? That's a question. These decisions saw the firm slash its operating costs by 80%. I can't really do the math, but something about losing 60% of your numbers and y'all two not taking salaries, cutting the operating costs by 80%, that's because you know they're not going to be paid as much as the founders. They're just not. So what percent of your operating costs was just directed at yours, at Leo's and Benoit's money? That would explain why you still haven't gotten paid for a full year and still fine. Which has left it unable to develop or launch new projects. They are not going to launch a new project on Kickstarter. It is going to be outcried from the start. No one is going to back it. You have lost all public trust. The only way you can go forward as a board game developer is not crowdfund. Get what funds you have, make a new game. Take what funds you have, make a new game, and do it direct to market. And guess what? If you do that, then where'd all the money go for Hell and Anastasia? You're basically up shit creek without a paddle. After Darkest Dungeon, like, Mythic Games is no more. Assuming they even finish Darkest Dungeon. Mythic, which has launched by Leo and Benoit in 2015, quickly made a name for itself as one of the tabletop industry's highest grossing Kickstarter specialists, scoring millions of dollars across campaigns including Time of Legends, Joan of Arc, and Solomon Kane. Games I've never played, I don't know. But the company was left fighting for its survival in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic after rising prices left it struggling under the weight of its expensive to produce miniature-heavy products. Cut the miniatures. Like, yeah, I like one of the main reasons I got Darkest Dungeon was because the minis look really cool. But if the miniatures are what's causing the bloat, replace it with standees. Replace it with basic meeples. Replace it with little cardboard cutouts. Not everything has to be a miniature. If you have to cut costs, you cut costs. Its greatest crowdfunding success, a tabletop adaptation of Darkest Dungeon, which raised more than $5 million, also looks to go down as the company's biggest failure after rising prices and high inflation left a multi-million-dollar hole in its finances. But can we see the finances? You say you have a multi-million-dollar hole from the finances left from Darkest Dungeon. I would like to see that very much, to see where the $5.6 million went from the production of Darkest Dungeon, plus the ransom, plus the second ransom. I would like to know that very much. In the summer of 2022, Mythic took the unprecedented step of telling Darkest Dungeon backers that they would have to commit more money if they wanted to receive their game at all. That is not what they said. Did you? I remember. I know I have the memory of a goldfish, but I remember that. I mean, technically they did say that in the original update. Basically, if you don't pay it, tough titties. But in the second update afterwards, they saw how badly received that message was, or at least should have been, and they backpedaled the fuck out of it. If you are unable to make a contribution, you do not forfeit your game. We'll store your Wave 1 products and do our utmost to take advantage of any other opportunities to get your products in containers to our distribution hubs. We will keep looking for opportunities to keep you updated. If we find a definitive opportunity, we'll tell you all immediately. We remain open to any suggestions and goal to deliver to all backers. That is what they said. They said they were going to try everything they can so that you, even if you didn't pay, you would still get it. So yeah. I mean, we all knew it was a lie. We all knew this was a lie. But yeah. Good to know they're coming clean on that now. Between $18 and $69, nice, each for Wave 1, comprising the English version of the core set, an expansion of several add-ons on top of the $100 to $330 plus shipping they had already spent on the original crowdfunding campaign. This contribution would make up about 50% of the extra cost. I would also love to see this of the extra cost. With Mythic Thane, it would provide another $750,000, and Darkest Dungeon video game developer Red Hook agreeing to commit $100,000. So it would provide another $750,000. You were the game developer. You said if we paid this, you would get your game in a year or whatever it was. We pay our games. If the cost went up, oh well, you should have made the game fresh. You should have had bought stockpiles of supplies when the costs were low. But no, you didn't do it. So you saying you paid $750,000 to help us? That's what you should have done. Red Hook, yeah, good on you, Red Hook, for the $100,000. More than 80% of backers duly paid up in order to get Wave 1 and were told that if they were also expecting projects in Wave 2, several more expansions, yada yada, they would not have to make any further payments. But Mythic went back on that commitment in October last year, with Wave 1 backers being asked for another $13 to receive each of Wave 2 expansions they are expecting, with even more added on top for shipping. Some backers have seen their total bill across both waves reach more than $400, around double their original pledge. Yep. The chaos which engulfed the Darkest Dungeon campaign also extended to Mythic Kickstarter's Six Siege, a tabletop adaptation of the Ubisoft game Rainbow Six Siege. I mean, it didn't just go to that. As you can tell from this article, it also extended to Hell and Anastasia. Mythic presented backers of the game with a similar ultimatum that year. Contribute up to $250 more, depending on your pledge level, or you do not receive the game. Unsurprisingly, Mythic has suffered a heavy back. They deserve it. Deservedly, Mythic has suffered a heavy backlash from its Kickstarter backers over the repeat request to pay extra for their games, with accusations of everything from Ponzi schemes, ransoming, and general mismanagement being leveled at the company, all of which I believe are true. I very much believe that they were using their newer Kickstarters to help fund the overcost from their older Kickstarters. And eventually, Anastasia did not fund as well as they wanted it to, and then the whole thing comes tumbling down. Ransoming, they are ransoming the game. They said it in the update. They said right here, your game is printed, it's yours, and it's currently stored in China. We already paid everything we said we were going to have to pay in order to get our games, and then you ask for more money. That is a ransom. And general mismanagement, if it wasn't general mismanagement, they would not have to be cut operating costs by 80% to get by. They would not have to cut 60% of their staff. They wouldn't have to misspend $10 million. Up until last week, Mythic has maintained it is determined to deliver its outstanding projects, except for Hell and Anastasia. But the failure to do so of Hell and Anastasia now calls into question whether backers of its other outstanding games will witness a similar outcome. They include Rise of the Necromancer and Monster Apocalypse, which raised more than 1.6 between them. So, Hell, which got $2 million, we couldn't do. Anastasia, which were all gushy about Anastasia. Anastasia was supposed to be their greatest game ever. They couldn't do that. But these two, which barely got less than $1 million each, they're not doing this. Board Game Wire has reached out to Mythic about the come-on deal and the future of the company, but has yet to receive answers to our questions. And we're not going to get answers until Mythic goes unders. But wait, this is a two-parter, because I'm behind on the whole Mythic thing, so there was more things to go on. Depth threats, doxing, and IP deals. Oh my. Mythic Games co-founder on the fallout from its come-on deal and where it all went wrong for the company. It went wrong on two things. Having multiple Kickstarters and multiple games at the same time and grossly overbloating your board games. That's where it went wrong. That's it. It's a 10-minute article. That's all you need to know from that. Mythic fell from one of the most successful crowdfunding-focused board game publishers of all time to one beset by financial woes has been swift. In the 18 months since the company took the unprecedented step of asking Kickstarter backers for more money to complete a project, the 5.6 million, their biggest funding, I think. Mythic has faced spiraling costs, outsourced the entirety of its remaining workforce, and given up on delivering 2 Kickstarters worth a combined 3.2, instead selling the IP of those games to come on. The sale of Hell and Anastasia's IP earlier this week sparked the greatest outrage yet from backers, hasn't it? Oh, it's just a link to the Kickstarter thing. I mean, you already know it's good. As much as I hate Mythic, like the Kickstarter, you're not going to get any useful information from the Kickstarter comment section. After Come On announced that neither game was ready for publication in their current state and required substantial effort to complete, Kickstarter backers of both games, some of whom paid hundreds of dollars for extensive add-ons and stretch goals, will now just receive a core box of Come On redesigns. Oh, that's even shittier. Hold on. Where did I mean, I guess I could have expected this, but yeah. So, if you went all in for Anastasia, $400, you're getting a base $100, so you're out $370. Hell, base $129, all in $200. Well, you're only losing like $100. Only like $100. Oh, that sucks. Board Game Wire. And now we have an interview with Leo. I'm sure this will be fun. I'm sure this won't raise my blood pressure. How did the Come On deal come about? Did you approach them, or did they come to you asking about these IPs? Leo. Actually, from the very beginning of our problems, we contacted various publishers to see if they would be interested in buying our IP. We talked to Come On and Monolith and were interested from the beginning, but initially only wanted to acquire IP for projects that had been delivered. Yeah, they don't want to have to deal with all the bullshit. They don't want to have to make the games and basically give it out to free to backers. For undelivered projects like Hell and Anastyr, but also 6 Seeds and Darkest Dungeon, we first tried to finish and deliver them ourselves. With Darkest Dungeon and 6 Seeds, we succeeded or will succeed soon. The wording of this, for undelivered projects like Hell, Anastyr, but also 6 Seeds and Darkest Dungeon, we tried to finish and deliver them ourselves. Were they trying to offload these undelivered projects even earlier? I might be reading too much into this. For Hell, the game was finished. Not according to Come On. The game is finished, but releasing it as planned would have required to ask our buyers for a huge contribution, much higher than for the other projects where we had to resort to a contribution. For Anastyr, the game was far along but not finished, but as with Hell, producing the game exactly as we had planned would have required a contribution request that was far too high. In discussions with Come On, we were pleased to see that they could consider acquiring both IPs. As stated earlier, at this stage, we preferred a solution that would allow as many backers as possible to receive a game rather than a new higher contribution request that would risk affecting a much smaller number of backers. Well, who are you going to believe? Mythic Games, Leo, who has lied multiple times before? Or are you going to believe Come On and saying, Hell, the game was finished. The game was finished, but what does this mean? The game was finished, but releasing it as planned would have required to ask for backers for a huge contribution. Like, do you mean shipping? Do you mean production? Is all the rules and shit done for the game? If so, why is Come On saying are currently ready for... They said neither Hell nor Anastyr are currently ready for production in their current state and will require substantial effort to complete them. I don't know about you, but I believe Come On rather than I believe Leo. Where does this leave Monster Apocalypse and Rise of the Necromancer? Dead at the side of the road. They didn't even make enough money to be worthy of even being bought out. Are you hoping for something similar to the Come On deal for these? Do you anticipate asking for more contributions, or are those games likely to simply not deliver at this stage? For these two games, the solution is to ask for a contribution, but the reactions to our communications are getting out of hand. It's clear we've inadvertently created and fed a bad buzz about our company. Well, yeah, you did. What did you think? Double or even triple dipping your customers would have on your business, on your image. We backed the Kickstarter. We paid the Wave 1 contribution, and then you asked again for Wave 2. And how much you want to bet with all that shit happening in the Red Sea, they're going to ask for another contribution for Darkest Dungeon before that can deliver. What's more, the Hell and Anastyr press releases and Kickstarter updates have taken us to a new level this time. People are attacking us personally. I mean, people have been attacking you for a while now. Benoit and I have received physical and even death threats. Some even go so far as to post our home addresses on social networks so that angry backers can find us. I know that this is an exaggerated minority, undoubtedly acting out of unreasonable anger. I am just going to say, as much as I talk shit about Leo, I don't think he should die because of all the crap he's done for the kerfluffle with Mythic Games. However, to the people who are sending him death threats, the only thing I have to say about that is...
without condoning or condemning. I understand.
Yeah, it's what it is. Nevertheless, I also received many messages of support. Who is supporting you? But I feel that an unacceptable threshold is being crossed, and you'll understand if I take little time before answering the question of what we should do about these last two games to be delivered. The mere fact of making announcements now immediately exposes physical people associated with Mythic Games. Some people seem to forget that there are peoples and families behind the names they install. And you seem to forget that there are names and people and families behind the Kickstarter backer numbers. People don't like being stolen for hundreds of... I mean, if they backed all of your games, it has to be over $1,000, maybe even $2,000 now, and now they're not getting their games. You can't just look at people as bank accounts and not expect shit like this to happen. Does the Come On deal provide financing for completion of future projects, or is it being used to pay down debt or general costs? We're happy with the agreement we've reached because it means that backers will get something back, and of course it helps us pay the general operating costs that remains as we complete and ship the games in process. That does not answer the question. What are we using the money from the sale from Come On to? Are you doing Darkest Dungeon? Or are you doing Monster Apocalypse, Rise of Necromancer? Or are you just stuffing in bank accounts? It means the backers will get something back. Okay. We're happy that their backers are at least getting something, even if they're going to be out $300 plus. Fuck you, Leo. Your line on the future of Mythic has, until now, been, we're working hard and despite these problems, have always delivered on our mini campaigns. Now that these 2 campaigns have failed to deliver, what do you see as the future of the company? The company is dead. The company is dead after Darkest Dungeon, assuming we even get Darkest Dungeon. It could be dead as soon as... Assuming 6 Seeds is actually shipping, it could just be dead now. The only future we can see is to deliver the games that are still outstanding. The difficult decisions we have taken have allowed us to find solutions for several of them, which I hope will count in the final balance. It won't. You've lost almost all public trust, because apparently you still have some support somewhere. But no. If people pay $400 for an Anister thing, and all they get is a $130 base pledge because you fucked up and sold it to Come On, they're not going to take that with like, oh, good on you. Thank you, Mythic. They're going to be rightly pissed off and never touch Mythic games again. Let me remind you of some numbers. Since its inception, Mythic Games has launched 15 projects, yada yada yada. Hell and Anister will be shipped to backers by Come On, at least the base box. That leaves Rise of the Necromancers, Monster Apocalypse. We're currently focused on delivering Darkest Dungeon and 6 Seeds, and then we'll look for the best solution for the last 2 projects I mentioned above. This is the only position we have on the future of Mythic Games. That doesn't say anything. Also saying, yeah, we're not undelivering these things because Come On isn't right. You are not fulfilling these games. You packed it off to another company, which may or may not hold true to your original idea. People backed Anister because they liked this. If they don't get this exactly, because Come On was like, this is completely stupid and we're not going to do it. I didn't know Becca Stott made a hollow play. Anyway, if they don't get this, you failed. You failed on your goal. Same thing with Hell the Last Saga. They wanted this. This is what they wanted. This is what they wanted. If you can't give them that, you Mythic Games can't give them that, you failed. Do you anticipate ever launching another Kickstarter campaign with Mythic, or do you think that would prove impossible now? It is impossible. Although a sucker is born every minute. But yeah, like you're not gonna get, and I don't think you're gonna get Anister numbers. And Anister was barely 1 million, wasn't it? It was barely over 1 million. You're definitely not getting Darkest Dungeon. You're not getting any more outside IPs. You're not going to get another Darkest Dungeon. You're not going to get another 6 Seeds. You've lost all public trust from outside corporations, so it's going to be based only on your specific IPs, which with the 1 million isn't going to be. I mean, sure, you could undercost it like you always do. They did not need 200,000 to meet their goal. They needed like 2 million, and which is why they lack all the funding. that anything they go on Kickstarter, even if it fully backs in 24 hours, it's not because they got the money. It's because they undercost their shot and they fucked up. I don't know if it's impossible. We've seen many unexpected turnarounds in business and why are you talking about politics? But as I've explained to you, the repeated media storms are tiring and getting worse because you're getting worse. Because your company is getting worse and worse. We don't plan anything else for Mythic Games until we have delivered or found a solution for all of our undelivered campaigns. That's just a basic answer. That's what you'd expect. Don't know, don't care. When does the license from Monster Apocalypse, Monster Apocalypse and other IP too, expire, and will that have any effect on whether you fulfill the Kickstarter? That's a good point. If you lose your license before you finish the game, can you even finish the game? The duration of the license granted has no impact on the delivery of the Kickstarter. We are deeply sorry for the problems we have caused our partners who've entrusted us with their licenses. We've been through a terrible crisis that has hit our model hard. We've suffered the consequences, but unfortunately, we're also passing some of them on to our partners, and that's very hard to bear. The only thing we can do now is do our best to limit the damage. By partners, do you mean... We have caused problems for our partners who have entrusted our licenses. We're also passing some of them on to our partner. You sound more upset about passing the costs off to Mythic Games and Privateer Press than you are about triple dipping your customers. That's a bad thing to say, dude. That's a bad take. That doesn't help with your image. Because he knows if he pisses off the partners, that they're forced to work on their own IPs, and as history has shown relatively recently, they're just not up to par anymore. Maybe Joan of Arc and Solomon Kane have been monster hitters that put them on the map, but their new ones don't seem to be picking up that kind of slack. Do you have updated timelines for shipping of Six Siege and Darkest Dungeon Wave 2? Six Siege is on the boats heading for the hubs. Printing for Darkest Dungeon Wave 2 will start after the Chinese New Year, so it's too early to get a delivery date, but if all goes well, we can hope for September. September of what year, Leo? September of what year, Leo? Knowing what you know, what would you have done differently with your Kickstarter projects over the past 5 years? Was any of this preventable? Yes, it was very much preventable. Budget, don't overextend your resources, and make games that you can actually make. Design games, put Kickstarters for games you can actually make in a decent amount of time for a decent amount of money. In retrospect, I think we should have been more cautious and less confident in our model. You're crowdfunding. You're specifically a crowdfunding. You can't expect everyone to buy everything every time. Idiot. We should have kept a tighter rein on our operating costs and found other sources of revenue, perhaps retail, sooner. We probably hired too many people, and those high operating costs condemned us to numerous and ambitious crowdfunding campaigns where the slightest crash could have serious consequences. So yeah, where was it? This. General mismanagement being leveled at the company. Leo, what do you think happened? General mismanagement. So that is 100%. And this. Ambitious crowdfunding campaigns where the slightest crash could have serious... How are they having serious consequences? How? Unless it's a Ponzi scheme. The only way that should... the way the Kickstarter should work is you get $5 million for Darkest Dungeon. You keep that $5 million in its own private bank account, and you only use it for Darkest Dungeon funds. Then Hell comes in for $1 million or whatever the frick it was, $2 million, $2.5 million, $2.25 million. You put that in its own little account and only use it for Six Siege for Hell the Last Saga. I mean, how is not getting enough money for Anastyr fucking up Darkest Dungeon? How is not getting enough money for Hell fucking up Six Siege? Is because it was a Ponzi scheme. What advice would you give other Kickstarter-focused board game publishers given what you've gone through at Mythic in the last few years? I tell them to be careful and diversify. Start small, have small structures, and be flexible. Don't grow too fast. So be smart with your money is what he's saying. Does Kickstarter need to reassess its policies of how many projects a single company is allowed to launch? Would that have been useful to Mythic in my hindsight? Yes. I mean, it is not Kickstarter's fault, but if Kickstarter would say you can't make another Kickstarter until you start shipping, start fulfilling your previous Kickstarters, this would not have happened. Or it would have happened with 6 Siege or some shit. It would have happened way earlier. And then we wouldn't have this cascading failure of 6 campaigns that just don't launch unless we get $15 more million. I don't want to blame Kickstarter. We want to blame the backers. They're not responsible for the difficulties we've had. They change their terms and conditions all the time to adapt, and people's spending habits also change. Too bad you didn't realize that before basing your business model on just always getting more and more money. If it hadn't been for the repeated crises we had, I think we would have been able to make it through, but our Kickstarter only model was fragile and too risky when you have a big team. Why didn't you make stuff for fucking retail? Why? Make a bare bones, basic retail version of shit for retail. It can't have been that hard. I just went to look at my Darkest Dungeon box. It's about the same size as Dark Souls, the board game. Maybe a little bit bigger. And guess what? Dark Souls, the board game, went to retail. They have it at my LGS. They have it on Amazon. You definitely, even if it is slightly too big, you could have trimmed the fat on Darkest Dungeon a little bit to make it good enough for retail. But nope. Can't do that. Only one thing to do, Kickstarter, put it all on your backers and don't worry about anything until it all comes crumbling down. It's the Dark Side Phil model. Gotta fucking love it.
Thanks for the money, dummies, because that's exactly what you fucking are. A bunch of fucking empty-headed idiots who paid me money to get absolutely nothing out of it. Thanks. Wow.
Is there anything else Kickstarter should have done which would have aided your ability to... Kickstarter, why are you... Who is asking these questions? It is not Kickstarter's responsibility to make people fulfill their projects. That is up to the project manager, especially someone as big as Mythic, who's been doing this for fucking years. Again, Kickstarter is not responsible for our problems. Kickstarter is just a way to fund and deliver projects. Thanks to Kickstarter, we've been able to fund and deliver many ambitions, although Mythic will not produce them in Hell and Anister have not been abandoned. They will live on, and backers whose disappointment we understand will have the opportunity to receive a box. Yeah, it's just not the box they paid for. I get the feeling that these last two were just softballs to make Leo, like, look, just don't blame Kickstarter, blame yourself. To put Leo in a good light. Okay, fuck. That's too much of me bitching about Mythic. I will see you next time when we get told we have to pay shipping again for Darkest Dungeon the board game. Until next time, take care, fuckers. Bye.